Okay, hello YouTube. Today I'm going to show you how to easily get an advantage against the Hungarian defense. So after e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, we have bishop c4, and then we begin the Hungarian defense with bishop e7. So one of the ideas behind the move bishop to e7 is to just kind of play a passive position, not to play the two knights defense, and maybe allow knight g5, and not to play bishop c5 and allow the Evans Gambit. So how do we get sort of an easy advantage against this? You know, black's plan is clearly to play d6, knight f6, and castles. The main thing we have to do is we have to strike in the middle because black has a little bit less space here. So the very first move we have to play is d4. Now, if black plays e takes d4 and we continue with knight takes d4, it's very clear that white has a slight advantage here. White has a little bit more space and he's got slightly better piece placement and development. So what if they don't take, though? How do we deal with this? I mean, if they take, then we're kind of back in our preparation for the Philidor. What if they play a move like pawn to d6? This is the move that most people that play the Hungarian actually play. Now, in this situation, you have two very good options to get a slight advantage without a whole lot of effort or a whole lot of theoretical memorizing. Probably the easiest way is just to take. And this leads to kind of a boring position. After d takes e5, we're going to exchange queens, bishop d8, and then we're just going to develop our pieces. In this case, we actually have a fairly large development lead to the point where black has to be extremely cautious just in his next couple moves, even though queens are off the board. For example, if knight f6, bishop e3, he couldn't play the natural move castles, because if he castled here, he'd run into bishop c5, rook e8, knight g5, and there really is no defense against the f7 square other than putting your bishop on the e6 square and allowing these doubled pawns, and then white can actually just play bishop b5 and create two sets of doubled isolated pawns. We'd have double isolated here, and an isolated pawn here. This would be an absolutely atrocious position for black. So after queen d8, bishop d8, knight c3, black has to be very cautious. Actually, after knight f6, we had this game between Abustrov and Artemev that was played back in 2021 that continued with bishop e3, and then black played the immediate bishop e6, which is backed up by the computer, and black just sort of has to accept either doubled pawns on e6, or in this case, Abustrov played bishop to b5 and instead went for this pin and went for this pressure on the e5 square. But one way or another, black has to accept some sort of concession, and white's going to have a slight advantage. Now, another option that you have against d6 is, what if you don't want to exchange queens and, go into these queenless middle games? Well, castle's kingside is another perfectly acceptable way to try to play for an advantage. Again, you're kind of saying to black, what are you going to do? Are you going to just play e takes d4, in which case we play knight takes d4, and we're back in some sort of slight advantage, or are you going to try to develop a piece? Well, if they try to develop a piece, either with bishop g4 or knight f6, the response is going to be pretty much the same. You're going to play d takes e5, and then you're going to follow up with some move that doesn't allow the exchange of queens, and then white should simply have a slight advantage, again, because he's got a little bit better development and a little bit more space. So, for example, if we have knight f6, we would just simply exchange, queen e2. This position should be considered slight edge white. And if they play a move like bishop to g4, we would play h3, bishop h5, and then same thing, exchange. If they take back with the knight, we would retreat the bishop, and then after we exchange a bunch of stuff on f3, white has a little bit more space in the middle of the board. And if they take back with the pawn, we would play kind of this cutesy move to keep queens on the board and deal with this pin so that they don't pile on and cause problems. We would just play knight on d2, which prevents the exchange of queens and also gives us a very slight edge because we have a development lead where castled, black's not, and here white's slightly better. So that is how you get a slight advantage against the Hungarian, and that's the easiest way to get a slight advantage against the Hungarian with the white pieces using one of those two options. So anyways, I hope you learned something new about chess. I hope you can use some of these ideas in your own games, and if you liked this, please hit the like button, please hit subscribe, click on your notification icon. Thank you very much for watching.